Hi guys, this is Laura, and you will learn about what my nasty husband did to me. He had a great plan of leaving me and marrying his beloved mistress. That was foiled in the end by none other than yours truly. But before I tell you what he did, let me tell you how I discovered his affair. Jake and I were married for a little over a year when I discovered his affair. Jake and I met through mutual friends and started to date pretty soon. At that time, Jake was actually a great man and treated me with love and respect, so I had no idea that our marriage would end up in a disaster. The problems in our marriage started when Jake's childhood friend Tiffany came back home after staying abroad for a few years. I never thought she would be a problem until I actually met her. At a dinner we had together, I saw her being too clingy and touchy with my husband. I was immediately uncomfortable and told her so, and that's when she smirked at me and said, "What makes you think you have any right to tell me what to do?" "I'm Jake's wife, so you will respect my boundaries in my home, Tiffany. He is not single anymore." "Oh, please, Laura. The only reason he was single for you was because I broke up with him and left the country." "Wait. What? You two dated in the past? Jake, why didn't you tell me about it?" "What did you want me to say? Yes, we dated and ended things when she moved abroad." "You know what, Laura? Jake would have been mine if I hadn't moved. I came back to him, but I see that he is already married. Still, it can never be too late, right? So you better watch out." Tiffany's words didn't sit right with me. It had already been 2 months since she came back, and that was the first time she was meeting me. Before this, Jake met with her alone and with friends, and I was now getting uncomfortable with that as well. Jake sussed Tiffany, but didn't actually put any boundaries between them. After Tiffany left, Jake and I had a big fight about this, and later he promised to put some boundaries between them and stay away from her. I was happy with the outcome because I hadn't expected my husband to sneak out and cheat on me with her. At home, he was pretty loving with me, so I had no doubts. I only found out about the affair when I came across 2 plane tickets to Hawaii. Guess whose name was on those tickets? You're right. It had Jake and Tiffany's names on it. I was immediately hit with the wave of reality that maybe Jake was cheating on me. I immediately started to cry and called Jake to scream at him. Jake didn't even sound affected and told me that we would talk when he got home. I waited for him, all the while crying and panicking. Jake did come home, but he brought along his mistress, Tiffany. It all felt so surreal that I didn't know what to say. So Jake and Tiffany did all the talking. "So you found out about our relationship. Good to know, Laura. I was wondering about how to tell you." "Yeah, it was unavoidable, you know. Jake and I are meant to be together." "How could you do this to me, Jake? I thought you loved me." "I did love you, but Tiffany's more important to me. She always has been." "I already warned you, Laura. You should have listened to me. Jake would always belong to me. Now, he's taking me on a grand vacation to Hawaii to make up for all the lost time." "You are really taking her to Hawaii, Jake? How can you be so calm about this? What about me and our marriage?" I was crying hard while Jake and Tiffany seemed to be absolutely made of stone. My husband wasn't even apologetic. In his most robotic voice, he told me to just deal with it and said, "I need you to vacate my house before I return. I don't want to hear any excuses from you, Laura. By the time I come back, you will be leaving my house." "Yes, you already mooched off your husband enough, Laura. It's time for you to move out and find someone else. This one is mine now." "That's right, Tiffany. I'm yours now, dear. Don't worry, I will end my marriage right away and marry you." "We better do that soon, Jake. I'm tired of being just your girlfriend. I want to marry you too." "This is the start of our new life, Tiffany. I'm already taking you on a grand vacation. When we return, my stupid wife will be gone. You heard that, Laura. I really do expect you to be gone from the house when I come back." I stood there with a pretty shocked expression on my face as Jake and Tiffany were lost in their own world. Now that they had been caught, they were pretty open about their affection for each other. There was no hiding anymore. They even kissed right in front of me. I hadn't expected this at all. I thought maybe Jake would show some remorse, but no. He was just boasting about his affair instead of begging for forgiveness. And he was ordering me to leave the house before he came back with his mistress. The two had an elaborate plan about how they would start a new life in my marital home. My head was spinning with everything that was happening right in front of me. I was literally starting to feel nauseous because of what my husband was saying and doing. Since Jake and Tiffany weren't looking like they would stop anytime soon, I simply said, "Fine, I will empty this house before you come back. You want to divorce me, right, Jake? I will let you do that as well." "I see that you're not putting up a fight. Good to know, Laura. Fighting won't do you any good anyway." "Yes, Jake. I know that already. Besides, I'm not someone who shamelessly stays in a marriage after being cheated on. So you don't have to worry, Jake. I will not pressure you to stay with me." I said those words and left the room crying. I immediately started to pack my stuff, because staying in the master bedroom would be impossible for me. I needed some space to come to terms with everything and to find a way out of this mess. I cried all night, curled up on the floor or the guest room. I could hear Jake talking on the phone with Tiffany and making plans about how they would start their new life. They were taking a grand vacation to Hawaii for 2 weeks and would come home together to my marital house. It was all planned out. I felt sick and cried my heart out at what my life had become. When the next day came, I was feeling much better. The grief had actually subsided and was replaced with shimmering anger. You know, after you have a good cry, you start to look at things from a fresh perspective. My ego and respect were hurt, and instead of being sad, I should be feeling angry. Jake's attitude towards this whole thing wasn't helping either. He was still as nonchalant as ever and not willing to show any remorse. He left for work early and didn't even have breakfast at home. I was pretty sure he was out with his mistress having breakfast before the office. Just picturing them together made my blood boil. I sat at the dinner table thinking about what I should do now. Jake was clear that he expected me to leave his house. Now, this house was actually a gift from his father, Fred, to us for our wedding. We were so happy to start our new life in a new home. Look how my life turned out later. Now my husband was planning a fresh life in this new home with his mistress. It was like a slap across my face. I was expected to empty out the house while Jake would stay in the house he got for free. That was something I wasn't willing to let him do, so I called my father-in-law and told him that we needed to talk. He seemed confused and said, "Hey, Laura, what's the matter? You call pretty out of the blue." "There's something I need to talk to you about, Fred. It's kind of important. I hope I'm not interrupting." No, I can take a call now. Go ahead, tell me what happened." "It's about your son, Fred. He betrayed me in the worst way possible." I started to tell Fred everything that Jake and Tiffany did. I told him how I found out, what they said, and even Jake's insistence on having me out of the house while he moved in with his mistress. Fred lent me a sympathetic ear and patiently listened to me cry and recount what happened. He remained silent after I was done, and then he said in a very angry voice, "I'm so sorry, Laura. I can't believe my son would do this to you. He is absolutely a horrible, shameless man." Believe me, Fred, I'm regretting ever marrying him now. I gave him so much. And now he's abandoning me after cheating on me. I don't know what to do anymore. Tell me something from your heart. Do you wish to continue this marriage, Laura? No, Fred. I don't want to continue this marriage. The trust is broken already. I don't want someone who was so cruel to me. Fred remained silent again, probably thinking about something. He was very happy for us when we got married and always insisted that I was like his own daughter. I knew he loved both me and Jake, so the end of our marriage probably devastated him. But there was nothing I could do. I wasn't sacrificing my self-respect to stay with a cheater who didn't want me anymore, so I decided to divorce him just like he wanted. Fred seemed to have accepted this fact and said, "Very well, Laura. If you wish to leave him, I will help you do just that. And I have a plan about exactly what you are going to do about the house." "It's okay, Fred. I'll leave the house. I know I can't win here anymore." "Who said you can't win here, my dear? You have a lot of cards up your sleeve and you need to just play them right. I'm glad you called me before doing anything because I know just how you can get back at him." "What plan do you have, Fred?" "The house my son lovingly calls his is not actually in his name, you know." What Fred said was completely new information for me. Jake always kept talking about how the house actually belonged to him since his father intended it to be that way. I was never told that Fred never ended up transferring the deed to his name. I was surprised by this and said, "Go, Fred." "What? Are you sure about that?" "I am the one who gifted that house to him, Laura. That house was always meant for the two of you. It wasn't just meant for him. It's funny that I never got around to transferring the house to Jake and your name." "But Jake told me that the house was already in his name." "I don't know why he gave you the idea, Laura. Perhaps so that he could kick you out whenever he felt like it. Jake was actually the one who told me to hold up the deed transfer. I didn't know what his problem was. I guess he wanted it to be in my name so that you don't get to keep half in the divorce." God, my son really did plan this like a psycho. So that was another thing Jake was lying about to me. My husband is one of the worst human beings that I had the misfortune of knowing. I was also pretty mad at myself that I wasn't able to gauge his character correctly. "I can't believe this, Fred. I married a monster. I am so ashamed of myself for ever loving him. This is just bad." "Believe me, Laura, I'm also ashamed of myself for raising such an imbecile like my son. But don't worry, I won't let him get off easy. I will help you get some revenge against him." "How do we do that, Fred?" "Listen to me, Laura. Jake wants you out of the house, right? So you will vacate the house, but you will also do something that he wouldn't expect." It was then that Fred told me about his elaborate plan against my husband. My stupid husband has tried to play us both dirty, but he has another thing coming now. Fred was a godsend for me, and I was actually thanking God that he was my father-in-law. He was super angry at Jake, especially because his mom had cheated on him and took him to the cleaners in the divorce. So he held a grudge against cheaters. I don't know why Jake thought that his father would forgive him. I guess he thought he would get special privileges as his son? Nope. He wasn't going to get any, actually. Fred was completely on my side. After listening to Fred's plan, I was actually a little happy and excited. His plan was foolproof, and it was also super profitable for me. Fred was all on board with me getting revenge and wasn't going to let things go just because Jake was his son. It was after talking to him that I felt a sense of relief. He was helping me in the best way possible. Since Fred and I already had a plan in our minds, I didn't bother with harassing Jake at all. He had a gala time coming and leaving the house whenever he wanted. Even Tiffany came along sometimes to help him pack and plan their grand vacation. It was all fun and games for them, as they not so subtly laughed at me. They were also sure about reminding me to pack my stuff and leave before they came back. Oh, I was going to leave, but I would also leave behind a surprise. They would both find out after they came back from their little honeymoon or whatever. Soon, their time to go to Hawaii arrived. Jake left the home, saying, "I better not see your face when I come back, Laura. You have plenty of time to move out. I don't want any excuses. I will move out and empty out the house, Jake. You won't find any mark of me in this place. Don't worry. I have no interest in fighting. I have better things to do. Whatever, Laura. I'm not interested anyway. What I do know is that I better not see you around, or else I will throw you and your things out on the streets myself. Believe me, Jake, you won't have to waste so much time and energy on me again. I'm done. I will leave, and you will never see me in this house again. Jake gave me a smirk and then left. I was burning with anger, but also laughing inside my head when I imagined his sorry face when he found his surprise after coming back. I didn't hear from Jake again. He was having a good time with Tiffany and uploading pictures with captions like "New Beginnings" and "Finally Free." His comment box was turned off, probably because people started to write some nasty messages there. Jake and Tiffany were absolutely shameless, but of course they would pay for it all. I moved out of the house and into an apartment that Fred got me. Yeah, he was paying the rent on that as well. What can I say? He's rich while I'm not. Rent and lawyer money would be too much for me together. So Fred graciously helped me out. He was also in the process of getting me more money in another way. I did have to do some work for it, but it was all worth it in the end. I moved into a new apartment and filed for divorce while Jake was away. Jake and Tiffany were blissfully unaware of what was going on back home. Fred never bothered confronting him because he didn't want to ruin our plan. Once Jake and Tiffany's time was up, they returned from Hawaii. I wish I could see the look on Jake's face when he went home and found our surprise for him. I bet he absolutely freaked out. When he did call me, his voice confirmed it for me. He was angry and panicky. He said, "What the hell is going on, Laura? Why are there other people in my house? There are even workers who are ripping the house apart. What is going on?" "Oh, hi, Jake. Did you have a nice trip?" "Shut up and tell me what's going on in my house. Where are you?" Jake was being extremely impatient, and I would have sympathized with him if he hadn't cheated on me. He deserved to see his precious house being taken over by strange people. I wish I was there to see his face, but my imagination was enough for that, and I started laughing at the image instantly. Jake was annoyed by my reaction as well, and that's when I said, "I'm not in the house, as you can see. You wanted me to empty out the house, and so I did, Jake." "But who are these people? What have you done, Laura? They're telling me that they own my house, and it has been sold already." "That's because they're right, Jake. I moved out like you wanted. And I also sold the house that you treasured. Consider this a payment for messing with me and betraying me." Jake was stunned into silence, just like I was when he had revealed his affair to me. He had a nice time talking and laughing at me along with his mistress. Well, guess what, guys? He wasn't laughing now. And his mistress wasn't going to get him out of trouble. He was in a deep mess that he created by himself. If you're confused about what I did, let me tell you. I sold the house on state insistence. Since he lived in another city, he made me arrange the sale along with the real estate agent. I looked after the entire thing, and Fred only flew here to finalize the papers and close the deal. He got a handsome amount from the sale as well, so Jake's house had been sold already. The new owners were redecorating the place before they moved in. I was still laughing about the entire thing when Jake freaked out and said, "What? You sold my house? Who gave you the authority to sell my house?" "Oh, trust me, Jake. I was well within my rights to sell the house, and it fetched a handsome amount, too." "What? You even took all the money? You witch! I will sue you. All that money is mine. And you had no right to sell my house." "I think you're forgetting something important, Jake. The house was never in your name. It was in Fred's name. And he gave me the permission to sell it. He even let me keep all the money." "No, I don't believe that. My father would never allow this. Why would he do this to me?" "Why would he do this? because he knows that his son is a cheater, Jake. And I think you know what he feels about cheaters." There was another round of stunned silence from Jake. I felt glorious having the ability to shut my stupid husband up like that. Jake was finally getting his just desserts, and I was here for it all. I was the one who broke the news of what happened to his house, and as if things weren't bad enough for Jake, he was told that I took the money from the house sale as well. Fred had actually told me to keep it, and I did. Jake wasn't going to get a penny from that because it was transferred to my mom's name. My mom was holding it for me until my divorce. Jake was in complete disbelief and hadn't expected his plans to go so awfully astray. He was so sure and confident of his plans that he hadn't expected anything to go wrong. His bimbo mistress also hyped him up when she had no real brain in her head. In the end, Jake was left with this awesome gift of nothing. His voice started to shake when he said, "What? You told my dad everything?" "Had you expected me not to, Jake? That's rich of you. Your poor father was so mad and disappointed when he heard what you did. He was the one who made those plans for me, you know." "My father made this plan about the house? How could he do that?" "He could do that because he didn't agree with what his son did." "Guess what, Jake? He is on my side. You will find out once you talk to him. Have fun telling him about Tiffany because he's not happy." "What have you done, Laura? You've destroyed my relationship with my dad and sold my house." "You got what you deserve, Jake. You have been a horrible partner to me and betrayed me. This is my payback to you. Enjoy your life with Tiffany and leave me alone. I have already filed for divorce and the papers will be delivered to your office soon." No, wait, you can't do this. The house..." I hung up on Jake and blocked his number as well. Jake kept calling me and texting me, but never got a reply. Since he didn't know where I was staying, he didn't have a way to catch me. I had also joined a new company that he didn't know about. Jake and I would only see each other at court now. There was no way he was getting back the house or the money from the sale. Jake tried his best to get in touch with me. He tried going to friends who promptly kicked him out because they were disgusted with his actions. He couldn't go to Tiffany's place because she was getting kicked out of her parents' house too. Fred had informed them about the affair and they had been upset by their whole community talking about it. They decided to kick Tiffany out because of this and told her not to come back. So Jake and Tiffany were both homeless and had nowhere to go. They ended up staying with a colleague who let them in. All this information was relayed to me by Fred, who had been in touch with Jake. Jake had been begging his father to forgive him, but Fred wasn't budging. His father gave him an earful and even told him that Jake was dead to him. Jake had been crying and telling everyone how miserable he was. Later, he even ended up having a big fight with Tiffany, after which they parted ways to God knows where. My lawyer had already served him divorce papers, so I didn't care anymore. Jake tried to get back after Tiffany left. He tried begging and pleading, but I held my ground. He only saw me at court appearances, so this wasn't a regular occurrence. Maybe he had thought that his father would forgive him, and he would get my money if he could get me to stay in the marriage. Too bad I left and didn't stop until we were officially divorced.